Yeah, I mean, it's the whole thing. Like, if it's a priority, that's probably my favorite thing that I've ever heard. If it's a priority, you'll make it happen. It's not a question of I can't, I don't want. It's if it's a priority, you'll do it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like friends, family. Like if it's a priority, if it's a higher priority, you'll do it. You'll make it work. If
Absolutely.
it's not, it's okay.
Right.
It's just not a priority.
Right.
Don't say you can't, because you can. You always can. You may not want to, or you may convince yourself that you can't. Then it's not a priority. That's what I say to my brothers. I have two brothers. We don't see each other much. It's not a priority for them. And I'm okay with that. But don't tell me you're too busy. That's not true. Right?
That is Speesleev owner Rob Allen. This week on the Do It For Yourself podcast. Hello, everyone. How are you on this morning, evening, afternoon, at whatever point you may be listening in your day? Thank you, first of all, for spending some time with me. I greatly appreciate you diving into another episode here of the Do It For Yourself podcast and listening to my guest share their story today. Before we get into today's guest, I just want to take care of a little bit of housekeeping. For one, I wanted to share with all of you that over this past week, for the first time, I had someone who reached out to me to be on this podcast. And since the inception of this, I have made contact with all of the guests. I have reached out to them. For some of them, I've stayed on top of them a little bit more than I've had to for others in order to get them scheduled and have a recording and, do the show. So after the launch of one of my podcasts, I got a generic message from somebody and they said, "Hey, I'd love to be on your podcast." And then they copied and pasted, just a generic bio that they send. And so I asked them, to dive in a little bit deeper. And they never responded. They never said anything. But in this instance, this was actually someone who reached out on behalf of a person that they were working for, and they have been in the endurance community. They've built a business, and I'm hoping that that's going to lead to, a great guest who can share their story with you. And the reason I'm sharing this with you is because without your support, without your dedication to listening to this show, without you leaving reviews, all of that would not be possible. So I just wanted to take a minute and say thank you for enabling me to do this and enabling me to book future guests and have that opportunity for someone to reach out with me and be interested in being on a show and sharing their story. So once again, thank you. I appreciate that. Today's guest is Rob Allen, and I met Rob Allen actually through Instagram. He owns a company called Speesleev, and they make saddle packs. And I found his company on Instagram because he had posted a picture of a pink camo Speesleev. And I thought to myself, well, that checks off two boxes for me. It is a neat and very tidy looking seat pack that, doesn't look bulky and donkey and like you just went to your, big box bike store and purchased this donkey looking saddle pack. And on top of that, it was pink, which I have a theme throughout my triathlon racing bike, and that theme is pink. So I thought to myself, well, this is great. So I reached out to him. Fast forward, we've built a relationship. I've hung out with Rob a couple times, seen him in action at some races before in the cyclocross world. And so I've grown to learn a little bit about Rob's story. And I wanted to have Rob on to talk about how he built not only Speedsleeve, but he had also built some bike shops in the Lancaster area. So we get a chance to dive into his bike shops, building those businesses, and then in turn leaving those businesses, launching Speedsleeve, and how he has now also become a sales representative for Pactimo, which is a rapidly growing cycling apparel brand that focuses on custom apparel in the U.S., and they're based out of Colorado. So Rob has a very interesting story. It was great to have this chance to sit down with Rob and learn a little bit more about his story and really dive into it deep. And the last thing that I would like to share with you is that Rob has extended a code to me for Speedsleeve. So if you are interested in purchasing any Speedsleeve products, you can go on to the Speedsleeve website, pick the products that you like, add them to the cart, and you can use the coupon code SUFFER, SUFFER 20, the number 20. So it's SUFFER, the number 20. That is not an affiliate code. I am not receiving any kickbacks for that. That is something that Rob shared with me, and it is something that he wanted to do to give back to the audience that listens to this show. So if you are interested in purchasing any Speedsleeve products, I highly recommend the Speedsleeve Ranger. I have both the regular size Ranger and the Ranger S. I don't have any need for the Ranger Plus, but the Ranger has been absolutely amazing, and I love that product in particular. So again, if you have any interest in checking out the Speedsleeve products, enter coupon code SUFFER20, and that will get you 20% off on the Speedsleeve website. It is not an affiliate code. I am not receiving any kickbacks from this. And please enjoy my interview with Rob.
So we'll just get rocking right from it. We're here in your office, Pactimo stuff all over the place. I'm hoping that I do get a chance to check out the Pain Cave, which is like it's like the modern day what's
the lab?
Well, that and it's like Atlantis for me. Like I see pictures of it all the time online and Instagram and everywhere else.
Yeah, we go.
But yeah, I got to check it out. So for those of you who don't know the voice, I'm here with Rob Allen. He's the owner of Speedsleeve. He is now working with Pactimo. You're the head of Pactimo Customs for the East Coast, right?
Yeah, essentially, primarily the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast, but we're moving pretty much all across the East Coast.
Okay, and so then you also have Speedsleeve, which between Speedsleeve and Pactimo, you've been working with some really great brands out here in like the Lancaster area. You own some bike shops that were out here, which we're definitely going to get into. So you've been in the cycling industry for quite some time.
My whole life. I mean, post high school.
Yeah.
So since 93.
Okay.
Yeah.
And in that time, like when you were in high school and everything, were you a rider?
I raced BMX.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's how it started.
I raced BMX and then did the freestyle thing and then skated for a while and then came back to the BMX thing and then took a break in high school. And then as soon as I graduated from high school, it was back to racing mountain bikes.
So you started BMX, so you were always kind of hanging around bike shops and stuff, because I'm sure riding BMX, you're trashing your bike. I mean, you're taking a spill and bumping off of something. So you were probably in a bike shop quite a bit. And on top of that, being in a bike shop.
80s. You know what I mean?
Well, I was going to say, on top of that, you're in high school, so you're probably trying to work some deals with the bike shop or trying to figure out how to fix stuff on your own, because you're in high school, so it's not like you have a disposable income to just start dumping money into your bikes.
Yeah, I mean, I was lucky enough. My parents supported the stuff, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
74 Volkswagen Beetle, and some pretty fly BMX bikes.
Yeah. So you were, and have you always been from the Lancaster area?
I was born here, moved all over the place, and then ended up in North Carolina for a good bit, and then moved back here in high school.
Were you down in North Carolina in any of that BMX scene?
Yeah.
What part?
Charlotte.
Okay.
Yeah.
BMX it's pretty big down there.
Yeah, it
So-
was good. I mean, obviously you get to high school and you get a car and you slow down on a lot of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I was lucky. My parents always helped me do whatever I
Yeah.
wanted to do.
Yeah. And so the transition from BMX to mountain, were you doing park stuff as in BMX, or were you doing the dirt stuff?
Dirt.
Okay. So
Yeah.
that's a pretty close.
Pretty easy transition.
Yeah. Except for the clip-ins. I don't know which I can't get past. Like, I can't fathom clipping into a mountain bike and just that's what everyone says.
bad.
Everyone that I talk
Well,
to.
some BMX bikes you're clipping in too. The racing stuff.
Like the downhill racing?
No, on the track.
Okay.
On the BMX track. Yeah, you're clipping in. I mean, not in the 80s. We were using bear traps or whatever. But
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not bad.
I don't know about that. It kind of definitely freaks me out a little bit. That's for sure. So you went from the BMX to the mountain, and what was that transition like? I mean, was it like an easy transition for you? You were just like, oh, okay, like, you know, this is like the next step for me, or what did that look like? Like, I guess why?
Well, I started drinking a lot of beer, and smoking a lot of weed. So I was in the restaurant business. I worked in the restaurants in high school, and as soon as I graduated, it wasn't like college was really. I wasn't exactly on the college prep track. Kind of hung out with the semi headbangers and whatnot. So I started mountain biking to just like try to lose some weight, and a buddy of mine was into it. And then as soon as I did that, I just fell in love with it and found a race, got my ass handed to me. I was, out of shape and slow, and I stayed with it. And then I think it was like 94. I was like spending so much money at the bike shop that I walked in one day and there was a help wanted sign part-time, and I hit up the owner and he reluctantly hired me, and I left the restaurant business and went there pretty much right away. So 94, and just did the deep dive right into the bike industry and fell in love with it and quit smoking and just full immersion. So mountain bikes came along with it, and then road kicked off basically in like 97 when Lance started coming back.
Mm-hmm.
And I made the transition from mountain bike downhill racing, semi-elite downhill racing, to road, just out of time, and you could ride to the shop and stuff like that. So my plan was always to go back to college. That never worked.
Now, after your first mountain bike race, you said you got your ass handed to you
Many times.
But what kept you coming back?
Just the feeling of most of my friends were in and out of rehabs, or dying, or just really just unhealthy lifestyles. So, I kind of saw that, and just I wanted to be healthier, and who doesn't like a good feeling after like a hard workout, even if you are out of shape. So I was kind of just drawn to that, and I'm just like a hobby guy. Like, I get into whatever I do. So
Mm-hmm.
I was into it. I was into the gear. Front suspension just came along on the mountain bikes. The tech. There's always tech. So whether it's cars, watches, bikes, that's my thing.
Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, all you have to do is jump on your Instagram feed, and like that's all
Yeah.
it is. It's bikes, it's cars, and it's watches.
I appreciate the technology in it and the craftsmanship. I mean, like, there's a lot of tech.
Yeah.
So it's not about acquiring possessions. It's not like that. It's more just I appreciate the engineering.
Well, and I forget when this was. I think it was right around New Year's resolutions, and but obviously people post a lot of stuff, and I saw an article that somebody posted, and it was this woman who took a bar class for the first time. And long story short, the whole basis of the article was it's okay to suck your first time. And it was basically giving people permission to go respectfully try something new.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you suck at it, like, it's okay. Everyone starts somewhere. So I think that that's an interesting point that you make, that you tried a mountain bike race for the first time, completely got your ass handed to you, and yet still kept coming back for more. It's almost like, it's like a boxer. Like, you get knocked in the head, but you still keep coming back for more. And there was something there that was just keeping you in the sport.
I think that's actually probably the more fun time is when you first get into something, because the gains are big and the interest is there and you're just, completely immersed in it. And then when you get to the pinnacle of whatever it is, road bike racing, you're chasing 2 watts here or there. You're at the limit. You're not going to really see many gains. So you can get bored, you can get burnt out, so those early days, it was just fun. You know, you just stayed at it. You go to the mountain bike race and you're meeting healthy people. And I fell in love with it. And I wanted to make it my career and try to figure out how to be in it as a hobby and a lifestyle and career and all that. It's a rough go for a while.
Yeah. Well, and your first step was starting to work at this bike shop.
That's right.
And you were out of college. I'm sorry, you were out of high school.
Out of high school.
So probably like 18, 19, somewhere in
18,
there?
19.
Yeah. And this was a local shop here?
Yep. Up in Lidditz, Pennsylvania, a bike shop called Bicycle World that had been there forever, and that had a really, really good following.
And when you first started working there, what were you doing?
Just learning, wrenching.
Yeah.
I was really, really bad at it. And the owner I had a lot of enthusiasm and I was really into riding. So he took me on as a charity case and trained me. I'm a slow learner, but I would say good at mastering it once I figure it out. So, and that's kind of just been my gig. Like, I don't do well at first and then I get really into it and then I like to be the best. So just started wrenching and then I moved into sales, and then I wasn't there long until the manager at the bike line store across town made me an offer to go work there. So I jumped over there pretty quick.
And Bike Line blew up pretty fast.
Bike Line was doing well. Yeah, they did really well in the 80s and the 90s, and I was able to make a decent living at that uneducated point in my life, and it gave me a vehicle to go further into it.
Yeah.
And we were a Trek dealer, and I went out to Trek, and I loved it. So, yeah.
So, and how long were you there?
I was there from like 96-ish to 2003.
Just wrenching, sales.
I was.
Did you ever?
I was store manager.
Okay, that's that's where I was going.
I worked there for like 2 years, and then the shop got acquired back by Bike Line Corporate, and I stayed on as a manager.
And so, for the people that are outside of this area, Bike Line is, I would say, in this area, they stretch into Delaware.
They were the regional player with 20 stores.
Right.
Some company stores.
And that's what I was going to say, is that some of them are independently owned, and others are owned by Bike Line Corporate.
Right.
Which has now been
Trek.
bought out by Trek, and
right.
That's all that they're selling now is just Trek.
Yep.
And when you were at Bike Line, you're managing the store, probably doing pretty good.
Doing well for my age and
right.
lifestyle.
And you're racing.
Yep.
You get to race. I'm sure you have some support from Bike Line as a racer.
Yeah, I was working a lot of hours. That was one of the issues, though. Like, they were 70-hour weeks.
Yeah.
To make it,
So when the idea came to get out of Bike Line, what were you thinking? What as far as what were you thinking? Like, man, 70-hour weeks, this just isn't cutting it.
It wasn't the hours. I would have never left had Bike Line let me do what I wanted to do to progress and grow the business. I wanted to get into bike fitting. I wanted to get into higher end road bikes. I wanted to get into, other aspects that they wouldn't support. And I went to them. I was like, look, I want to do this. I want to do this with the store. And they shut it all down. And I was basically like, okay, well, I don't really want to leave, but I can't grow under this environment. And like bike fitting's coming, whether you see it or not. It's going to be the next big thing. And they were like, we're not even having that conversation. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to open my own spot.
Well, how did you see that? How did you see that bike fitting was going to be one of the next things? And it was like people were going to be more concerned about their position. That was somewhere that they could gain a little bit of,
I was interested in my own issues, my own bike fit issues, because I was riding a lot. And, people would come in and drop all this money and you'd adjust a seat like you used to adjust a BMX bike, and they'd go out and they'd ride. And from a biomechanical standpoint, it just wasn't making much sense. So I was doing some semi, ghetto bike fits there. And their whole thing was, don't spend the time. You're spending too much time, with bike fitting and service and all that. Like, get them in, get them out. And that's not, it's not really the good way to, to culture the business and to effectively service the customer. I mean, you're dropping $5,000 back then on a road bike and you're getting a BMX seat adjustment by a, 15-year-old kid working after school. Like, it's not adding up. So, and I was pretty well traveled at that point, and I saw bike fitting. There were some people doing some bike fitting, some rudimentary bike fitting. So I tried to implement it, and I kind of got my hand slapped for going outside the box, and that was really it. That was the final nail in the coffin. So
you kind of got your first taste of like corporate world and like,
yeah, and
hey, don't do that. Like
them just sabotaging their own potential, not being completely out of touch. Good organization, good company. I worked for them for a long time. They took care of me. But as far as growth goes, there were issues there that I told them. And they were basically like, well, this is how it is.
Which is funny now, because if you go into the bike line down in Newark on Main Street, they have that whole retool fit.
Oh, they went huge. They went huge in it. They were about 10 years late on it, but they had to, because it was, it was the thing. So, yeah, when you see it come full circle and they're like, and then they go huge into it, overcompensate for it. It's fine. It's all good.
Yeah. So you have this idea to start your own shop. And the one thing that I can't really wrap my head around when it comes to starting a bike shop is, in order to start a shop, you got to have inventory. In order to have inventory, you got to have money, because it doesn't matter whose bikes you're going to buy. I mean, you're not buying Huffies and Mongoose, which I don't even know if Mongoose is still around.
I think they are. I think they made a comeback.
But they're in Walmart.
That's correct.
I think. So
Yeah.
so that's what, there you go. You're not going to have those bikes. You're going to have, the Treks, the Pinarellos, Cervelos,
Yep.
Cannondales, these big name guys. You're talking a couple $1,000s for each bike. You got to have multiple bikes, multiple styles, multiple sizes. You have to have enough inventory. If somebody walks in that door and says, hey, this is what I'm looking at, you have to kind of have some of at least the most common sizes in stock sitting there on the floor.
Yes.
I mean, as a young guy, how did that even work?
I borrowed a little here, borrowed a little there. I had a pretty decent reputation with the reps already. So when I made the jump over, they all kind of lined up to extend me credit and extend the brands to me. And they did a lot of favors on and pushed a lot of things through that probably wouldn't have normally gone through. But I had done business with most of them where they're like, hey, you want to be a Cannondale dealer? We'll give you a $30,000 line of credit, and we'll give you 6 months to pay for it. And I was like, foot on the gas, let's do it.
Yeah.
So we opened with Cannondale, Pinarello, and Jameis, and all three of those reps were personal good friends of mine.
Okay.
So
But without spending that time at Bike Line and some of the other shops, you would have never established those relationships with those people.
no.
So even though your time at Bike Line kind of came to an end and it was,
I got no regrets.
right. It was a
Yeah.
little, it was kind of, I would say almost kind of mutual. Like they were
Yeah.
like, hey, this isn't really working. We don't want to do this bike fit thing. You had a different vision. But without spending that time and building those relationships while you were at Bike Line, like now this new idea probably would have, it could have come into fruition, but
Probably
it would have
wouldn't
been at a cost.
That's correct.
You would have been knocking on bank doors and, talking to your family and, hey, can I get a little money here and a little money
Which I
there?
did that too.
Yeah.
You had
Well-
to build out the store, and
Yeah.
there was a lot of. I owed a lot of people a lot of favors and a fair amount of money.
Yeah.
So, but no, I mean everything stacks on top of it, right? Through your entire life and career, if you look back, even things that are messed up sometimes, they're building blocks that you look back and like, if this didn't happen, that wouldn't happen, and that's just the way life is, particularly in business. I think a lot of times. So
Now, did the cycling world out here blow up around this time and you had a lot of people that were coming in the door? I mean, was this like in
Yeah.
the prime of Lance and the
99.
Postal Service? And
99 was when it really started hitting.
Mhm.
And I opened up in late 2003, early 2004 at what I would call prime of the prime of the road season. And I got tired of hearing people that say that they were driving to like Philly and Baltimore and DC to get these high-end bikes. So I wanted to open a store that you could see the stuff that was in the magazines, like the hottest carbon bars and seats and frames and wheels. And nobody saw a set of Zip wheels in this area until I brought them in and rode them, and just kind of, that was my goal. This was a very conservative kind of old school, like, ride what you got, it's fine. And I was like, look, you go to a group ride in Philly, there's carbon wheels, so I wanted to expose the people around here to that level, which we did. Plain
to
and
the
simple.
the real
The
high end stuff.
Yeah, where a normal bike shop would take $5,000 and put 40 bikes on their floor, I'd put one.
Yeah.
Know
I
what
mean, a Pinarello
yeah, Pinarello.
with carbon wheels, and I mean the works.
I sat it right in the middle of the store, one bike, and I was like, here it is. I can order your size. We can fit you, whatever.
Yeah.
So
So you didn't really have too many demo bikes.
we had more than we had some, yeah, but I wasn't afraid to go all in on a couple different bikes.
Was that because you A, knew the quality of the bikes, and B, because you had been around? I mean, I don't know. Back in the early 2000s, was Bike Line carrying those like Pinarellos and like real high end?
No, they were Trek dealer.
Okay.
Yeah,
And Cannondale, right?
Primarily Trek.
Because the one over in Newark did have some Cannondale stuff that they ended up, blowing out when they were. So where did you get your exposure to these higher end bikes then?
Well, the Treks definitely, but when I was at Bicycle World in Lidditz, they were a Cannondale dealer back in the early days.
Okay.
So they had closed by the time I had opened, and the Cannondale rep was a good friend of mine.
Okay.
So we brought the Cannondale dealership to Leola.
Which obviously Cannondale, they don't want to lose business.
That's right.
So
And they had just
if
come
one
out of,
shop's closing,
they had just come out of bankruptcy. They filed bankruptcy in like 99. So people were still really hesitant on that, but it was a PA company. It's high-end aluminum, starting to carbon fiber, and I'm like, I'm just going to bring this brand back to life in Lancaster, which we did.
now what about the Pinarellos and stuff? Where did you?
Pinarello was there's a shop across town called Air Ski and Bike Shop,
Okay.
and they were the Pinarello dealer. And Pinarello came to me and said, we're looking to make a change, and we'd like you to do it. And I did it. And I said I didn't want to really take the dealership from them, and they said, we're going to take it anyway and move it somewhere. So they're still pissed at me to this day.
Even though it had nothing. I mean, it
Yeah,
wasn't your
they think I
decision. It's
stole
not
it.
like you,
Yeah.
reached out to Pinarello and you're like, hey, this is where I am.
Right.
I want to, I want to strike up a deal with you guys to carry your bikes, and I want to be the sole dealer
Right.
in this area. I mean, they approached you,
They did.
which is kind of foreshadowing for what happened within the last year and a half ish, which we'll get into. But another company
Yeah.
reaching out to you saying, hey, we want to work with you. You weren't going out and seeking them out. So
That's correct.
that's pretty
Yeah.
that's pretty funny. I guess it says a lot about you and the relationships that you have with people in this industry, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've always kind of done what I said I was going to do. Never left anybody hanging and tried not to burn bridges. So when those times come up that you need the nod from people, they're there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think that's just kind of life in general too.
Yeah.
I mean, with friends and
Oh, yeah.
family, and you gotta do it right.
Yeah. So you opened your shop in the early 2000s, and
Went big.
yeah,
Went
you went
big.
all in,
All in.
which is, it seems like that's just you in general. You just go all in. If it's something that you are really passionate about or that you really care about.
Yeah.
But I do want to know what it was like in the early days of owning this shop. Maybe 1-2 customers walk in the door, on any given day. Was there a time where you had a day with closing out the register at 0 sales and you're like left scratching your head like, what the hell did I do?
Actually, not really, because there was a need, and I was providing the solution to that need, from sales to service to bike fitting. We were busy. The day we opened, we had a grand opening. It was huge. All the customers from Bikeline came. Customers from other shops came. All my friends came. We had a great opening day, and we rolled it. 2004, 5, 6, 7, we were doing essentially what I was doing at Bikeline, dollar and cents wise, which was significant for a small shop. So I was kind of doing really, really well, and I was really happy with things. And with that comes higher credit lines and more inventory and more stock and wanting to do more. And then 2008 hit, which that was the collapse of everything.
Mm-hmm.
And cycling is a luxury. It's luxury money. It's it's money that gets allocated. My type of cycling, my type of business, the money gets allocated, and it's fun money. It's a luxury, and that dried up overnight with the market collapse, the recession, the real estate, all of that. All of my high end customers were like, I'm good with what I have. I'm gonna sit. My 401k I just lost 50% of everything. And at the same time, 2008, my wife and I were going through divorce. So all that combined with high credit limits and inventory sitting, everything kind of went in the shitter. So that's when, there were some days where there were 0 days, and the bills are still due. And then you find yourself in a situation like everybody else. You're not outside the bubble, you're in it. And we went on credit hold with a lot of vendors, and nobody was buying. And 2008 was awful. I mean, our sales dropped 50%, something like that. And my crazy ex-wife was like losing her shit, losing her mind. Can we swear on here?
Yeah, go for it.
So I just decided to circle the wagons. Most of the staff I had to let go. So me and my brother just buckled down and said, I said, this is going to suck. You're basically going to work for nothing. I'm taking nothing. I'm going to pay off all this shit and try to get things back, reduce the store footprint a little bit, blow a bunch of stuff out, focus on service. And at the same time, other shops are opening too at the same time, which was crazy. And basically rebooted, got everything back together. Took like 2 years, and we were back. It was just me and him, like 2-man show.
Now, what? I just want to stop you right there, just because you spend a lot of time building relationships with these reps and these people, and I'm sure you also spent a lot of time building relationships with the people that worked for you.
Yep.
And you guys, it wasn't just a manager employee relationship.
Most of them came from Bike Line with me.
So you've known them for a really long time.
Yeah. Yeah. My shop manager was Mark Eckert, who's one of my best friends. So the good thing was, though, he was having kids and his wife got a raise, and at the same time, like, I probably would have let him go. He was like, I'm going to stay home with my kids. So that worked out good. And then everybody else was part-time in college and stuff. So it wasn't that painful.
Okay.
It really wasn't that painful. It kind of just worked out.
Yeah.
And some of those guys I kept on here and there part-time, but that I didn't have to like drop anybody. It wasn't, I got lucky like that.
You weren't dropping like full-time employees who
No.
were carrying benefits who had like 2 kids,
Nope.
like that kind of a deal, which I'm sure in 2008 there were a lot of companies that had to do that.
There were.
So that is lucky that you didn't have to go through that. I think I can't even imagine. I mean, I'm sure it was hard for
It's
you.
a lot of stress.
I'm sure it was hard to let go of the people that you had to let go anyway. I mean, it's still a paycheck. People still need money. Like, you had to pay your bills and they have to pay theirs too. So I'm sure it was still hard, but I'm sure it was at least a little bit easier.
Yeah. I mean, I started with not taking a paycheck or not taking any money for a good bit and still paying the employees, which is a sobering feeling.
Mm-hmm.
To get into that position is like nothing else I could really describe, because these people have families and they got a life to live and they're working, and you hired them. So you have a responsibility, to them. And, I mean, it's gut check time when that happens.
Yeah, but you have responsibilities too. I mean, you're going through
you're
going through a
boss.
divorce. Like, you probably had lawyers' fees and everything else that you had to pay.
Yeah. Yeah. It was pretty epic, actually.
Yeah,
It changed my life.
I'm sure it did.
Changed my life. Yeah.
So 2 years, and you're back to where you were.
2 years, and I'm at it. I'm back out of debt.
Okay.
2 years back out of debt with a smaller footprint, and just kind of just cruising along and starting to kind of make the comeback. And I had decided that I think I was pretty much done with retail in Leola, and my ex-wife co-owned part of the shop. So we were going through the divorce and trying to shake that out. And she was like, I want my half. And I was like, half of what? There is nothing. So we just basically like dissolved that partnership, started to dissolve that business. And along came a buddy of mine and my brother, and those two struck a deal to essentially buy me out, buy my book of business, buy my customers, buy my brands, and they relocated it to another spot. And that's how I walked out of that retail environment.
Now, the one thing I do want to ask you about when you were at the shop, which I've heard some other shop owners say, did you completely lose interest in also riding? Or did you still ride while you were at the shop?
So when I worked at Bike Line, I was like working 80 hours a week, eating cheesesteaks, drinking beer, and I was not riding.
Mm-hmm.
I was working. So I was in the industry and not working or not riding. And that was another one of my motivators for getting out of the Bike Line corporate scene, because they didn't really promote riding a whole lot.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted their people working, not riding.
Yeah.
So when I opened the shop, I started riding again. So I lost, over the course of that, 5 or 6 years, I lost 50, 60 pounds and got my legs back and started racing again. And I rode through all that. Yeah, I rode through all of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So even, because you were probably still working the same amount of hours, if not more.
Yeah, but I'd leave and go do a 3-hour ride in the middle of the day.
Which is probably like a slow point, shop-wise.
Yeah. Yeah, or I just, I'd ride in, ride home, ride during the day. Like I took the liberties to go do it.
Because I've heard a lot of shop people say, like, if you like bikes and you like riding your bike, don't go work at a shop because you spend so much time around the bike and you just don't have, you're like, by the time you get done wrenching on everyone else's bike, you don't even want to look at your own bike.
That sounds like somebody with very poor balance. And it can be true, but you've got to find out what's a priority. And if you truly love it, you're still going to ride. I mean, I know a lot of people that still ride. And that can also be an excuse sometimes for a shop guy that doesn't ride.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd call them out.
Yeah.
Maybe they're in the wrong business. Maybe they don't actually love riding their bike.
Right.
Because you'll find that balance if it's important.
Absolutely. And I think it's like that with anything.
Sure.
Anything in life.
Absolutely.
I mean, there's so many people who look at, what we do and they're like, oh my God, I could never do that. Well, could you never do it, or do you not want to do it? Because there's a really big difference there. If you don't want to ride your bike inside on a trainer for 3 hours, hey, listen, I don't blame you.
You're probably more sane.
I'm not going to fault you for that at all. But I could never go and drink my face off at the Fillmore with Steve Aoki playing on a Sunday night, knowing that I got to get up and go to work on Monday morning. Right. You know what I mean? So it's all about what you want to do. I think you are more than capable of doing anything. You're telling me that you rode through one of the toughest parts probably of your life, like divorce, 2008, the business is crashing. Literally everything around you was crashing. You could have very easily said, I don't want anything to do with a bike right now, and just kind of like put yourself in a cave,
right?
Pulled the covers over your eyes, and that was it. Like,
I drank for like 6 months straight during the divorce process. Yeah. And then I just like woke up one day and I was like, all right, I got to get done with that. So I got, just started riding again, putting in big miles, and so I mean, it's the whole thing. Like, if it's a priority, that's probably my favorite thing that I've ever heard. If it's a priority, you'll make it happen. It's not a question of I can't, I don't want, if it's a priority, you'll do it. Mm-hmm. It's like friends, family. Like, if it's a priority, if it's a higher priority, you'll do it. You'll make it work. If it's not, it's okay.
Right.
It's just not a priority.
Right.
Don't say you can't, because you can. You always can. You may not want to, or you may convince yourself that you can't. Then it's not a priority. That's what I say to my brothers. I have 2 brothers. We don't see each other much. It's not a priority for them, and I'm okay with that. But don't tell me you're too busy. That's not true. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. So you're deciding to get away from the retail and the shop and everything. But I'm sure, I mean, it was only 2 years prior that you had bills due and everything.
Yep.
So when you're getting away from the shop, you still know that there's going to be bills there that you have to pay. Where were you going? Did you have a plan at all, or is it something that kind of just fell into your lap? Like, I'm done with this. There's, we just built this back up. I'm pretty drained from going through that. I'm ready to take a step back. This is what I'm looking at doing.
I mean, the big thing is, I think in life and business, and you get pigeonholed into, this is what I've done, this is what I'm going to always do. Whether it's your job, whether it's, your hobby, whatever. And then I just said in like 2010, like, well, everybody thinks I'm a shop owner, and I think I'm a shop owner, and this is, it doesn't need to stay like that. You can change it up. You can do whatever you want whenever you want to do it. There might be consequences to drastic action like that, and I don't recommend that to most people, because there's something to be said for security and a safety net, and just like, living a traditional kind of life, I guess. But I was, I got to shake it up sometimes. I had thoughts about going back to school, but I pretty much just got my MBA in life and business the prior decade. And I'm not one for punching a clock. Never really have been. That's, That's hard. So yeah, I just broke the mold. I'm like, I'm gonna do something else. And at the same time, we were kind of coming up with this little Speedsleeve idea in 2010 that was like, concept that we were using on our own bikes, and we thought there could be something there. Guess in the back of my head, I was like, this is never really going to work. But so I just decided to leave the retail and focus on that. And if you hear anybody's early days, they're gritty, they're grind it out, make no money, be poor and get this idea off the ground. And when you're hungry, you'll do it. And it's always slower than you think, and takes more money than you think. But I was pretty determined to try to at least take an item from concept to retail shelf. That was my goal.
Now, did you have, after you built the shop back up and had the separation with your brothers and everything, did you have money that you had socked away to kind of float you?
No.
During the early days of Speedsleeve?
No. No, I pretty much, so I stayed in the house when my wife and I separated. She moved. I stayed in the house. I paid the mortgage for a couple months, and then basically ran out of money. And a friend of mine and his wife moved into my house, and they rented from me, and I rented a room from them. I basically gave them a discount on their rent, and I stayed in one of the small rooms in the house. And I was basically just like, I had my car, some clothes, and I was like a lurker in the house. And I was like pretty much rock bottom-ish style. By no means a rock bottom, like I wasn't homeless on the street and, freezing to death. But going from what I was doing to where I am now, it was like total reset, like, kind of hard times. What am I doing? I was 35, I think, which is like pseudo midlife crisis years. And then got back together with my current wife, who I dated in high school. And then she was, basically like, just why don't you move in with me? And I was like, well, I don't really have any income, so I don't like to contribute. And she was super rad like that and just said, I got this, do your thing. We've known each other so long. It'll come back around. And I reluctantly took her up on that and started rocking and rolling. And then the deal was that my brother and my buddy that bought me out from the shop, I was supposed to have a job there part-time while I focused on Speedsleeve. And that didn't really work out well because I went from the owner to my brother being my boss, and they weren't doing it the way I thought it should be done, and business was suffering. There's a whole backstory there. But long story short, that didn't last long. It only lasted a couple months. So I was out of there and still had Speedsleeve and was still trucking along with that, and actually started selling some. Did a licensing deal with Cannondale right out of the gate for one of the products.
Was that the one with the water bottle on the front in the aero bars?
No, that was a different one. This is for what we call the original Speedsleeve.
Okay.
The one that attaches like gels to the top tube.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a lot of the first products from Speedsleeve seemed like they were triathlon focused.
They were. They weren't saddle packs. They were mountain bike triathlon racing products.
Now,
endurance.
Did you have? Okay, so it was the endurance side. Did you have any exposure to triathlon?
Yeah, because I worked on a lot of triathletes' bikes.
But were you a triathlete? Did you do any triathlons?
I did one triathlon.
Okay.
Y'all are crazy. It was cool except for the running and the swimming.
Yeah. Okay. So, but you had these ideas based on working on these.
Needs. Yeah.
Okay.
I knew the needs of the triathlete.
Not from personal experience, though.
From being so immersed in it, yes.
Not, I guess I should say not from personal like racing though.
No, but if you take a 5-hour mountain bike race, it's the same needs on the bike as a triathlete.
Yeah, you're
still-
calling us
you
crazy, and you did Leadville 100-mile mountain bike race last year. I don't think you can really do that. Like that's not. You can't call us crazy. That's insane.
Different kind of crazy.
That's insane.
It was pretty insane.
Yeah.
It was fun. But there's another case where I used that Leadville to test some of our current products.
Yeah.
And they always hold up, and they, so we did the deal with Cannondale, and that put a little money in the pocket to just, come out with more products. And they actually put it in their catalog and on their shelves. And it was like, wow, this is pretty awesome. If nothing else happens, this is cool. And then we just kept innovating, came out with new products. So I was doing that, working out of my house and traveling all over the place, and with my little suitcase of Speesleev stuff, and getting laughed at by everyone.
Yeah. Well, when you left Bike Line and you started the bike shop, you had relationships that were built with reps from companies.
Yeah.
So you had, Cannondale and these people that you knew in the industry. When you started Speedsleeve, you're starting a new brand, a new product, a new company in this industry, but this is like a whole nother layer.
Yeah, manufacturing.
Right. Like,
Yeah.
Did you have any contacts as far as supplies and production and...
No. We were making them in the U.S. here at a sewing factory in New York, and they were falling apart, and they were too expensive. And through more networking and a lot of favors, we got into a factory in Taiwan that produces other brands, other top brands. And I essentially weaseled my way in to somewhere I had no business being. And so made friends with them, and they started producing for us. And that was kind of the birth of like the legit manufacturing there. The bottom line is like, you just got to go for it. You just got to go figure it out, because nobody's going to tell you, So I was just scrappy back then. I was like, I don't care. I'm going to walk right into this sewing factory and just be like, this is what I need. Can you do it? And I wouldn't want to go back to those times.
Yeah. But even when you started the shop, you were scrappy, like you still weaseled your way in. You still got deals that you shouldn't have gotten. You got lines of credit that you probably shouldn't have had.
Yes.
You got terms. I mean, to be a brand new shop and have 90-day terms,
Yeah.
it's like virtually unheard of.
Yeah.
Unless you essentially have the finances to back the order. So unless they can look at your finances as the owner of the shop and say, all right, we could give him 90-day terms, because really, if anything comes down to it and he doesn't pay the bill the first time around, the second time around, whatever the case may be, like,
Yeah.
he's got the finances to cover it,
Yeah. These were all done on just kind of like the handshake, like the.
Yeah, but you
think he's good.
you were
We think he's good for
weaseling
it.
your way through.
Yeah, but isn't that how it goes?
Yeah, absolutely.
Isn't that the way it goes?
Yeah.
I mean, the people that get hindered by that are the ones that think that that's not how it is.
Where they can't do
'Cause
it.
that's how it is. It's
Like,
the
The people who aren't gonna weasel and wiggle and adapt, and they're the ones who can't do it.
usually
They're
they're usually the smart ones.
Yeah, I guess that's a way to look
the
at it
dumb
too.
ones are the ones that don't realize that it's so crazy that but that it really is the case.
Yeah. Now the some of the original Speedsleeve ideas kind of fell by the wayside.
Actually,
Some
it's
of
still
them,
in the line.
some of them.
The Aero Bar sleeve. Actually, I almost revisited last week, but some have not. You got to drop some off, and some have. But the original Speedsleeve is still in the line, and we still sell it, and Cannondale still sells it. It's not a big seller, but it's there. It's a
Right.
brilliant little hack on your bike for endurance racing. I can't see why everyone doesn't have one. But
Now, and
I'm
for
biased.
the people for the people who are listening that don't have any idea what the original Speedsleeve looks like, obviously they can jump on your Instagram
Yeah.
at Speedsleeve, but just kind of explain like how it works and what it does.
It's basically just like a two-sided rubber tube wrap that attaches to the tube, and then there's a elastic flap that comes over on top of whatever you're holding. And there's a fair amount of engineering in that product, probably more in that product than anything else we sell, because it's got to hold it. So you can attach it to a lefty fork, you can attach it to a stem, you can attach it to a top tube. There's 2 different sizes. It'll hold a, like a lighting battery. It's a very functional little piece of elastic that a lot of people will use duct tape or electrical tape or, whatever they want to hack it. And we just made a legitimate version of that works really well. So,
and since then you've made your way into now a complete line of products, everything from the seat packs, the messenger bags, the top tube case, the backpack, and there's multiple options for the seat sleeve as well. I mean, you have your original one, you have the ballistic one,
the Ranger,
and the Ranger now, which has, when it first came out, you had one size,
right?
It's just the regular Ranger, and then you've since graduated and you have 3 different sizes to accommodate basically everyone's needs. You have the Ranger S, which is the small version, super light, super tiny, really geared towards road cyclists who are very concerned about the weight and what they're carrying on their bike with them, especially when they're racing. You got that middle one, which is the one that I use a lot, especially in triathlon racing, because quite frankly, if I get a flat, I'm going to fix it. I know a lot of people that race triathlon that are like, oh, if I get a flat, that means I'm out of the race. Well, that's not, it's not necessarily true. You flat on the bike, next thing you know, somebody's puking on the run and you could end up catching them. So I am one to always, I actually pack extra. Like I have enough to change 2 flats. If I get 2 flats, my day's over. I can come to terms with that. Like somebody's telling me, somebody's telling me that that's just not my day. So that's the one that I use for triathlon, is that original Ranger. And then you went ahead and you did a Ranger for
Plus.
Mountain bikes.
Ranger Plus, yeah. For fat bikes, gravel bikes, mountain bikes, and just try to hit all the whole market.
Now, for people who haven't seen the product, and I think I might know the answer to this, but I want to hear it from you for sure. The original seat sleeve is all open. That's so right. You have like little slots that slide. You slide everything into these specific spots. So CO2 has a specific spot. Tire lever has a specific spot. Multi-tool, extra tube with the elastic. And is that the original? Is that the elastic from the?
That's the seat sleeve.
Yeah.
Yep.
The seat sleeve. Is that elastic? That same concept, is that from the elastic in the middle of the seat sleeve?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah, same deal, same material.
Yeah.
There was an elastic Velcro theme.
Yeah. But everything with that is exposed.
That's right.
So for us triathletes and roadies, I don't know if anybody else is like me, but I'm like a fair weather roadie. So if it's like kind of drizzling, I'm not going out. If it's like, unless it's like sunny, I'm not going outside. But if you're a mountain biker or you're anybody else, all those things are exposed to the elements.
Well, they come with a rain cover. So whether or not you use that or not, but the theory, I mean, look, the whole company was based around racing. Like, so people will say, well, it's all exposed. And I'll say, well, it's a racing product. Like, it's the quickest on and off. It's the most inventoried system when you're racing, when time matters. This is what we built it for. Then roadies started using it just because it was the tightest saddle pack out there. And it looks pretty legit when it's all packed up and, everything's exposed underneath there. So we semi-revolutionized the way you carry stuff. Now all the other companies have jumped on board and they're trying to make versions of it. There's some knockoffs out there, which is fine. They don't want to be original. That's fine. You know who you are. But yeah, so we listened to people and we're like, can you make an enclosed version? So we took that inventory system, quick on and off, super high and tight, and we made the Ranger, which is an inventoried closed clamshell version of the original seat sleeve, or of the seat sleeve, and it's gone really well. I mean, it's crushed all the other products we've ever made because of the simplicity is there, and cyclists are, they're finicky. So Ranger's current, and yeah. I mean, if you want, I don't know how many people listen to this or whatever, but I can give you a code for them to go order. You can do a little thing like that if somebody wants it.
Yeah, for sure. I'll do that.
For the one person that's...
Thanks. I appreciate it.
No, I think about that like no one's going to want to listen to me, So, but yeah, we'll give a code out.
Yeah, and I'll put it... Yeah, well, I'll put it in the outro afterwards in post and everything. And just as a side note and how I found the Speesleev, very, 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 very long time ago, you posted a picture of a pink camo original seat sleeve on Instagram. Mm-hmm. I don't even know how I discovered it, right?
Yeah.
But when I was early in the sport, early on, just got my first bike, I just got the standard, like, whatever seat pack from Performance Bike and, put my CO2 in there and tubes, whatever.
I'm sorry.
I hated how it looked. Like, I hated it, but it served its purpose.
Right.
Like, and it was, it was kind of donkey and it looked stupid, but it served its purpose. It was there for when I needed it, and it was fine.
Yeah.
When I got more into the sport, I was like, man, that thing looks ridiculous. Like, I need something new, but I was very specific about how I wanted it to look. Mm-hmm. I wanted it to be, I didn't want it this like donkey, like, like the truck nuts that are hanging off the back. Like, that's what it looked like. It was like, yeah. So I'm like, nah, I don't want that. So fast forward, I have pink hubs on my tri bike. My Chris Kings are pink. So I see this pack, and then I start doing some research, and I see how high and tight everything is. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, man, that's it. That's what I want. And so I gravitated towards that. Unfortunately, because of the cost of of that,
it was just a sample
fabric
out there.
Yeah. It never came to fruition, but I ended up getting just a original seat sleeve in black, and that's what I started off with.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah. Wow. And then the Ranger came along, and I was like, oh man, that's so when the Ranger came along, you did it as a Kickstarter.
Right.
And I want to hear your theory behind why you did it that way, because you were already fairly established.
Yeah.
When you did the launch of the Ranger. And this is something that we never really got into.
Yep.
But I would love to know, and in full disclosure, you talked to me about the Kickstarter, and you did your research on Kickstarter. You knew how long your video needed to be. You knew how you needed to grab somebody within the first 10 seconds or whatever it was. You really, really did your research on launching something on Kickstarter. So why did you go that route?
Well, you'd see Kickstarters all the time, right? And the curiosity is just there. It's like some good products, some goofy products, some stuff that you're like, they just got $400,000 for that. Like, and Kickstarter's a big, the base of Kickstarter products. They don't have a company. They don't have infrastructure. They don't have manufacturing. They don't have any of that stuff. And it's a Hail Mary. It's like, we could do this if we get this much money. And there comes one of my little boys right now. So
is that Jackson?
That's my cat, Jackson. So, they don't have that. They don't have that in place. Some do, but most don't. You got independent, musical artists and stuff like that. So we waited way long on the Kickstarter. I was just like, we got to figure this out. Is this like is this a sham? What's going on? And then I got to the point where, well, everybody's doing it. We're not. So the premise is, if you have a new product, you can launch it, whether you have a company or not. And we got together and said, let's just do it. It's a lot of work. Like, it's a shit ton of work. So if you don't have the tenacity to stick with it, to film the video and do the voiceover and put up all the pledges and, do all your research on how to get funded and all that, like, your Kickstarter's not going to happen. Mm-hmm. So that was a whole nother project that I just decided, like, I'm just going to do it, incrementally do it, and launch this thing. And if it flops, it flops. Like, I don't really even care what happens to the funding. At the very least, I'll have an idea of what people think of the Ranger.
It was kind of like a market research.
Yeah, market research. And just, it was kind of fun. So 2016 we did that. Yeah. And we launched it, and it hit like $5,000 like the first day at $20 a pop. And then some magazines did a review. Bike Rumor, did a little shout out for it. And like within a couple days, it was at like $10,000. It ended up at like $21,000 at $5 or at $20 a pop all over the world. And the Ranger kind of launched, and we, ordered a bunch of them, sent them out, and it went well.
And then that's what led into people giving you their feedback and saying, hey, was it people giving you their feedback, or was it you kind of thinking like, okay, how can I take this Ranger to the next level? Because you have different sizes in the original seat sleeve.
Right.
You have like a smaller size, fits one tube, fits one CO2, fits one tire lever.
No, the seat sleeve's one size. Multiple
it is?
colors. Yeah.
Okay. I thought there were two different sizes.
We had a large version back. The Ranger replaced that. You're
Okay.
right. You're actually right, but they're different. The bigger one was enclosed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was like a tool roll style.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the Ranger came along, nobody was buying those. But no, the other two sizes of the Ranger were just me wanting to hit the other markets. Like, I wanted a smaller version for my road bike.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how a lot of good products, I think, through time have come along. If somebody wants it for themselves and they want to make it for themselves, it's a good chance other people might want it.
Yeah.
So I wanted to do the small one, and then for the mountain bike, I wanted to do the big one to fit plus size tubes. And now we have 3 sizes.
Well, and when you were thinking about doing the large one, wasn't that right around the time of Leadville?
Yeah. So I took out the plus size one and used it at Leadville to jam all my stuff in.
Yeah.
So we came back, and then we launched that one.
Did you have a couple samples out there with you too?
Yeah, I had prototype samples that I used. Yeah, from our factory.
Did you have any other ones that you were kind of like, you knew some people who were out there and you're like, hey?
No, but I just used it, but I did see a lot of people using all of our products at Leadville.
Yeah.
Which was, basically when you have moments like that, it doesn't matter what else happens really. Like, you're riding up this hill in Leadville, and there's like 3 or 4 people around you, and they're all using Speesleev.
Yeah.
And you're just like, wow. And then you start talking to them, and I told them who I was.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, this is the best product I've ever used. And yeah, I mean, it made the entire race worth it. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
I can only imagine what it's like riding up, even just riding up the hill, and you look up and like, boom, there's a Ranger,
Yeah.
or something right there, like in your face as you look up. And
I'm kind of numb to it now, but maybe it was the oxygen. It was emotional.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really cool to see people spend their hard-earned money on something that you've created.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of power in that.
Yeah.
A lot of power in that.
Absolutely. So, now you have this established company, and I mean, we fast forwarded through your personal life as we were going through Speesleev. We didn't really touch on it too much, but obviously you're not living in the same house with your girlfriend at the time, now your wife. You guys weren't in the same house, so you fast forwarded all the way along. You guys are now established. You have an established company at Speesleev, probably not, surviving off of ramen and anything else anymore. And this company reaches out to you and they say, look, we want you to take something over for us. We want to start working with you.
Yeah,
And
so the company's called Pactimo. They make custom cycling clothing. And we were doing a custom Speesleev deal with them. And a friend of mine was the rep at that time. He had left, so I had picked up the sales of the custom Pactimo Speesleev with the VP of sales. and we were moving forward with that. One thing led to another, and we started talking about me working for them and building the sales territory in the Mid-Atlantic and the Northeast. And it's just such an awesome company. I went back and forth to Leadville or to Colorado a couple times, where they're based.
Mm-hmm.
And after being out there and meeting the CEO and the entire inside team and see what they have going on, I took the job. Yeah. And
This is the first time in
awesome.
how many years? You're not punching a clock, so to speak. You're still not punching a clock, which it seems like the last time you were punching a clock was when you worked at the bike shop.
Yeah. The last time I had a W-2 was 2003.
There you go.
Last time I was a W-2 citizen was 2003. So it's been interesting.
Yeah.
It's been interesting. It's been cool, though. I mean, it's cool being part of a team.
And you still have direct reports, right? I mean, you have somebody that you have to answer to.
Oh yeah, yeah, and it's on. We're growing. We want to be the top name in custom. And they're a great company to work for. So we're slowly converting teams and moving teams from other brands over to Pactimo because they get experience to first the quality, the infrastructure of the company, the delivery, the customer service. There's an entire package, an entire team there beyond just me that is making this happen.
Yeah, I mean the quality. We were just talking before we really started recording, and I have a set of your custom RA bibs.
Yep.
And I've now been riding in them for probably about like a month or so, maybe a little bit longer.
Mm-hmm.
And I did a 3-hour ride yesterday inside. So meaning no up and down out of the saddle. Like I'm just there. Yep. 3-hour ride. None of this like D's nuts, chamois cream, cameos cream, like nothing. Mm-hmm. I put these bibs on and I was good for the entire ride. And then like today, I'm not walking like I, was sitting on a horse for 4 hours yesterday. Like, I mean, the quality is there.
The chamois are legit. There's a lot of testing and a lot of years involved in those. Those are custom chamois made specifically for us by a company, Italian company. So we're not just sewing in somebody else's chamois. Like Pactimo owns their own factory, so we make the clothing exactly how we want it, based on rider feedback, professional feedback, what we've experienced internally, and those are some of the things that attracted me to the company. Any company that's going to go that far can definitely get my attention. So yeah.
What's the balance been like between Pactimo and Speesleev, and also why were they open to you still running Speesleev and taking on Pactimo? Because both are full-time jobs in and of themselves.
Speesleev is in a big way run by Mark Eckert, who's my friend and partner, and my big focus right now is on my full-time job with Pactimo, and we sell direct with Speesleev. We sell direct to the consumer, and a lot of that is automated. So I'm not going to say it's a pretty easy balance, but Speesleev's there. Speesleev's doing well, and my main focus right now is definitely Lycra.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
but yeah, it's Pactimo. They understood that that I was an owner in Speesleev.
Yeah,
and they sometimes you've got to accept to pull in a certain skill set. You might have to understand that there's other things that come along with that, and I think that was just the case. I mean, it's been really good. We're getting ready to deliver the first custom Pactimo seat sleeve to them, so you'll be able to buy Speesleev in the team stores and on their website, which is also pretty cool, which is how the whole thing got started.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's all. Mark's been handling that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all good.
Yeah.
So I can just kind of sit back and watch Speedsleeve while I'm growing the territory for Pactimo.
Which is awesome that Speedsleeve is established
Yep.
that way, and that you have somebody that you can trust
Yep,
in that position
100%.
to handle the day-to-day of Speedsleeve, and
Yep.
you can now focus on this new venture, so to speak.
Yeah, and it's some people have said like, well, you took a job when you had these other opportunities, and to be part of a team that's got a very definite goal, that's doing amazing things, goes beyond the whole concept of a job. I really, really like what I do, and the way cycling clothing is these days is very fashion forward, with Instagram and Facebook, and everybody's got to match, and everybody's got to have tight kit, and everybody wants more clothing.
Mm-hmm.
You want a different outfit for each ride.
Yeah.
You want, it depends on where you're going, what you're doing. You've got multi-seasonal, you've got different colors, you've got team race kits, you've got training kits, it's endless right now. So in the bike industry, where it's flat or down, the custom clothing industry is growing, and if you're into clothing and fashion, the custom cycling, you're in your kit sometimes 10, 12, 15, 20 hours a week for some people. That's a lot of time. So the days of old black shorts and stuff like that are over.
Yeah.
Every ride starts and stops at a shop or a coffee shop or pizza shop or whatever. So you want to be seen, you want to, be out there, and there's that kind of like gang mentality, I suppose, or, brotherhood, fraternity type deal, where everybody wants to kid up and be on the team, whether it's a race team or not, whether it's a club or whatever. I've always been into that when I had the retail stuff. We were pushing Asos and Jordana and clothing that people had no concept what it was. Laser cut, Italian made, people were just like tripping around here on that. Wearing $1,000 worth of kit is used to be crazy. Now it's kind of the normal thing with your shoes, your helmet, your $300 bibs. Like, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so that's crazy. I never really thought of that. But
yeah, it's that old,
holy cow. Yeah.
that old cycling thing where, $10,000 bike on top of a $5,000 car. It's the same thing with clothing these days. So that's fun.
Yeah.
I love kitting up teams, and I like a different outfit for each ride myself, and gotta be crisp, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Absolutely. All right, man. Well, I've taken like way more than enough of your time, but I do want to say thank you for sitting down and doing this with me. And it's just, as we sit in your office here, in your beautiful home, I'm sure that there were definitely some points in 2008 where you weren't sure that you were going to get, to a point like this where you have, a garage with, a nice car and a basement with bikes. And, it probably, there were definitely some dark times at that point in 2008, I would have to believe, where you were like,
there were, yeah.
But I think that speaks to your resilience as far as the I can't versus I'm going to figure out how to do this and make it a priority.
Yeah, I'm super blessed. I'm super lucky. I've got an amazing partner that's very successful in her own right, and I'm just lucky.
Mm-hmm.
I'm super lucky. And business, I think, is that old that old saying where hard work meets opportunity. Because if you're not grinding on it, those doors might not open, and I feel like I'm just getting started.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, thank you, and we'll drop a code in the outro after this for people who want to jump on and check out anything Speesleev, and
check out Pactimo.
Yeah.
You know, if you have a custom team, if your team needs custom clothing or you want to kit up individually, I can also do something there for your listeners.
Yeah.
And we can expose you to the new level of Lycra.
Yeah.
New love for Lycra.
And the RA kits that are super comfortable.
Yeah, for sure.
Super comfortable.
So we can go down and look at the pain cave now if you want.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
Cool.
All right, man. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And there you have it, my friends. Another interview here on the Do It For Yourself podcast. What did you think? What did you think of Rob's story? What did you think about kind of going for broke with Speesleev and really just leaving his bike shops, building this new brand, building this new company, and then taking on a new opportunity where he's still managing and doing everything with Speesleev, but now he's also bringing on new clients for Pactimo Custom. I just can't even imagine the long days that Rob is putting in working for two companies. And so I give kudos to him for that. And I give kudos to you guys out there for listening to this episode and doing it for yourself in whatever facet that may be. Once again, I just want to let you know that if you are interested in any of the Speesleev products, you can feel free to go to the website, enter the coupon code SUFFER20 at checkout, and you will get 20% off of whatever it is that you're purchasing. That is not an affiliate code. I'm not getting any kickbacks from that. That is just something that Rob extended to the listeners of this podcast. And the last thing that I'm going to ask of you is if you could please leave